put a salvia there because they grow very easily in hot, dry circumstances. Very forgiving shrubs, fast growing for the most part. And you walk by one of these in bloom like this, and I guarantee you'll hear a hum. And that hum is all of the insects that are getting around, trying to get to all the flowers. It's literally a buzz with activity. Many different shapes and sizes. Most of them growing in brutal sunny conditions with very little water. When I want to put a show on for people really quickly and they say, oh, I want to cover this area quick, it's salvias we use. Our local salvia, by the way, is the one that grows locally is black sage. It's not the prettiest, but you know, it's another very good habitat plant. This one's actually got a bee in its name, Salvia apiana, white sage, and it does get visited. And it's growing up at my house where I get 50 plus inches of rain every year, even though it's a desert plant. So it's very adaptable. This is the Sonoma sage. Maybe a little less sun for this one, but it's a really nice low-growing ground cover of a sage. Beautiful. Fragrant. How about these guys, the California fuchsias? This is a plant that will bloom in late summer and fall. You've got to admire a plant that can do that in our circumstance, you know. In our Mediterranean climate, any plant that can put on a show like this in October, August to October, boy, that's really valuable. And you can imagine with a flower shaped like that, it's a very good hummingbird plant. They just love that. And they'll be feeding on those. In fact, a lot of the hummingbirds that migrate out of our area, which is all but one, Anna's is the only one that stays here, depend on this plant for their travels. Not necessarily here on the coast. They seem to travel more on the interior. But without this plant, I don't know that we'd have hummingbirds moving up and down, going down to Mexico. Because, boy, if you've seen hummingbirds and how fast they move, they need energy all the time. This is their source. The buckwheats are great. Buckwheats are very busy plants also. Always putting on a show in the middle of summer when you, around here it can be somewhat of a challenge. Most of them have sort of a white to pink look, but you've got the sulfur buckwheat also. The bush poppies. Dramatic plants that also attract many insects and smell great. They smell like cucumber. Next time you see one, the flower smells just like cucumber. I don't know why. In the rose family, we have Toyon. Toyon is the plant that Hollywood's named for. That's the Hollywood. It's our state shrub as well. And you can imagine a berry display like that. This comes right around Christmas, so it's also called Christmas berry. A berry like that in the middle of winter, yeah, that's going to attract some birds. Cedar waxwings love these. I've seen band-tailed pigeon on them. Various birds will forage on these. The hollyleaf cherry, also in the rose family, blooming, just starting to bloom right about now. An evergreen cherry. There are no other evergreen cherries, really, especially in our flora. Busy with bees. And then when they're done flowering and the bees are all happy and full, then it's time for the birds to move in. Not that tasty for us. Sticky monkey flower, pretty popular flower that's also a busy plant. This is a nice chaparral off of in Palo Alto, off of Page Mill, going up the hill. This is all chemise in bloom, with a nice patch of monkey flower right there. Monkey flowers vary in color throughout the state. So you go down a little bit further south and you'll see ones that are almost all red.
That's a hybrid, isn't it?
No, that's actually a species that it's considered the same species now. They once had these split, now they're all together as Mimulus aurantiacus. There are a whole bunch of garden hybrids that have a similar look.
Oh, okay. Well, I have one that looks like it.
Is this Puniceus?
Yeah, this is Puniceus, what they called that.
Are they totally subsumed it into Ornithicus now?
Yeah. So you get some nice hybrids. I was just going to mention when you said hybrids, you get, when you got variability within a species from north to south like we do, you start combining them and you get these nice. This one's called changeling. And I have this one in my yard, and it's really easy. This is a plant where I'll make a cutting and stick the cutting in the ground, and I'll have a new plant. Wow! It's really willing to grow.
And you're assuming those are not all Orienticus, right?
Yes.
They
These are all considered, well, this is really a garden hybrid. I mean, this would never occur in nature. But, it's of the Orontiacus family. Now, here's a plant you may or may not recognize looking like that. But when it's in this stage, it's another one of these shrubs that'll be buzzing with insect activity. It's our coffee berry. And you may not know it by Frangula californica, but you'll have to start learning. So that's coffee berry. Most people know it by its lovely
You've
berries.
been doing your homework, Kevin.
Oh yeah, well, I've been changing a lot of plant lists with those names. So it's really got some tasty berries. Not so much for us. I think the name coffee berry comes from the settler days when it sort of looked like a coffee berry, and maybe you could use it to have the laxative effect of coffee. I don't think it had any stimulant effect other than the laxative effect, which I imagine some of the miners may have needed with their diets.
No, but if you take the seed and peel all that flesh off of it,
It looks like a coffee
the
bean.
inner seed looks
Well,
like,
it's like a coffee bean, yeah.
Coffee bean, I agree.
The shape,
I've tried it. It was yucky.
I've never made coffee out of it.
But birds like it. There's no accounting for taste. So if you have shade, another question I get is, I have this really shady place and nothing really grows. Consider ribes, the currants and gooseberries. They really like the part shade, part sun to shade, and they put on amazing displays in winter. This is a shot from February. This is another dramatic plant for hummingbirds. As you can imagine with a design like that, the fuchsia flowering gooseberry. This is a plant that's got a lot of spines on it, so you probably don't want it next to your walkway. But other than that, it's a nice background plant, loaded with flowers in February.
Is there
March.
anything that can grow under eucalyptus?
Sure. There are a few things. I've seen monkey flower growing underneath eucalyptus. I've seen poison oak growing up underneath. I didn't include poison oak in here, but it's actually a great habitat plant. I'm not going to recommend anybody plant it necessarily, but it's a great habitat plant.
Is that a hummingbird?
That's a hummingbird sticking his nose in the fuchsia flowering gooseberry. You have one of these. You have one of these, and you have. I'm sure you have visitors.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
You don't see the underside of a hummingbird very often.
This is an evergreen one from the Channel Islands, Carolina perfume. A nice sort of moderate ground cover, sort of a moderate sized ground cover. It tends to spread out, cover a lot of ground in dry shade real easily.
Good under oaks.
Good under oaks. This one's one that requires maybe a little bit more water, but a beautiful currant. Flowers probably right around now. Produces fruit that the birds love. Golden currant. The snowberry. Another. Who eats snowberry, Jeff? What do you think?
Well, it's kind of like, it's not preferred, so a lot of years it doesn't hardly get eaten. But
You see them on the staying on the vine for a while.
It gets eaten late in the season, and I really don't know.
Now, I haven't really seen anybody picking on them, but
It's not very prominent. I think, if you looked in Herbert and Zim, you'd find it. It's eaten to a small extent by things like thrushes and things like that. Your typical fruit eaters.
you don't think of snowberry as being a particularly showy plant, but when you look at it up close, it's actually very pretty. Ocean spray or cream bush, Holodiscus. This is in the rose family as well. Puts on a great late spring show, just jaw-droppingly beautiful. Also in the rose family, Pacific 9-bark, kind of an underused shrub in horticulture, but worthy, definitely. It has these nice white flowers. You can kind of see each one of those is like a little rose. They start out white and age to red, and are really great for many things. This is some sort of beetle in here. It's all over this one. This was in San Jose. And in the rose family is the rose, another great plant for shade.
Is that gymnocarpa?
That's wood rose, gymnocarpa. Yeah, that's at my house.
Where's your house?
It's up on Summit Road, right near 17. So I was talking a little earlier about salvias. This is one I didn't mention because it doesn't like hot, dry, like all the rest of the salvias. This one prefers under oaks. This is a great under oak one. In the valley, it prefers a little bit of shade. At my house, up at Summit Road, I put it in every circumstance. Full sun, full shade, everything in between. Any place I need a plant to grow and I can't get something to grow, this one does it. It's an amazingly willing plant. It is hummingbird sage, and as you can tell by the name and the shape of the flower, it does get visited. Bumblebees love it too. It's just coming into bloom now. And actually, about every month in the year, I have one in bloom. Right now is the main bloom, but throughout the year, I'll have them in bloom. And it's such an easy plant to care for. You can mow it, and it'll come back.
Excuse me, I don't hear everything, but are you saying shade for Swastika?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, what about in sun? I have it in sun right now.
Well, good for you. It can happen in sun too. It's growing right out here in full sun. So it depends where you live. And like I was saying, at my house, I can grow it in all exposures.
And there's a yellow one too.
There is, yeah. Fairly common plant throughout the West Coast is the Columbine. Easy to grow in shade. And it can bring things like this swallowtail.
Did you get that in your yard?
Yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah. I get a lot of different swallowtails. This one actually may be from the North Coast. I'm trying to think. I've seen this before at my house.
You've seen
I
that
think
behavior in your yard?
the photo is from like up in Smith River area,
Yeah.
I think.
Dr. Shapiro tells me he rarely sees swallowtails at the Columbine, but I have people in Southern California that see swallowtails at Columbine. Everybody in Oregon and Washington sees it at Columbine all the time. I think he probably just doesn't have very many Columbines in his study area.
Question?
Yeah, going back to the wood rose, what are the circumstances when it won't bloom? What is it not getting?
If it gets too much sun, it might not bloom. It actually prefers a little bit of shade. Probably too much shade, and it won't bloom either. So there's a nice fine balance, I'd say. Mine is on basically a north face, but it has just a little bit of a western exposure. So it gets some afternoon sun, maybe an hour or two. So I'm imagining, and mine blooms spectacularly. It's right on the road cut, so it probably is open. So I would say just having the right exposure, and then wood rose does want a little bit of water. Where I live, there's fog drip, and if you live down here, you have to give it fog drip essentially.
I have a naturalizing from 2 years ago.
Huh. So this dramatic-looking plant is a thistle of all things. This is Venus thistle. The cobwebbiness of them varies throughout the state. But what doesn't vary is their value as habitat plants. They're really quite good. Hummingbirds love them. As I found out here, this is actually in just about a week or two ago. Coming home from Carrizo Plain, I took Parkfield Grade, the shortcut. It wasn't a shortcut at all, but it was really interesting. And as I was taking a picture of this area, this is Venus thistle.
Sure.
This